I don't think I'd buy that finely tuned machine. I wouldn't want my car to run the way this White House has done. I think what's interesting is that unless the president can kind of find a way to stop appealing only to his base and give the appearance, at least, of having an organized White House, that a lot of power is going to shift to Congress. There are a lot of Republicans in Congress who resented President Obama's expansive view of executive power. And I think some of them don't really trust President Trump, or they'd like to take some power back. So one possibility is we have this very entertaining, as Jim said, very entertaining press conferences, lots of tweets, lots of ceremonial visits, and you have to see whether the Republicans in Congress can do things like repeal Obamacare, do corporate tax reform as they.
And part of that's going to be where the leadership is coming from for those plans. I mean, to this point, it's been the Paul Ryan plan that's really been put forth for the tax plan for the overhaul.
I think the problem is these things are really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
There's winners and losers. There's factions within the Republican Party, and without strong presidential leadership, it's hard to get them done. If the president is creating distractions, if he's constantly beating up on his enemies, if he's having conversations with foreign leaders that produce headlines that weren't intended, then it's hard for him to spend the time with Congress to figure out how do we do this. Although it makes Pence really important. There's a possibility here that Trump continues to do his stuff, and Vice President becomes like the Prime Minister who gets the work done.
You know, it's been very interesting watching the tax plan in particular for our viewers. We've been watching it pretty closely. The president himself has said that the cross-border tax plan, it really is confusing as far as he sees it. He didn't make any comments yesterday after what he thought after meeting with the retailers, but that's a linchpin for the congressional plan for this. How do you pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think it's going to be very hard to get this plan through Congress.
With the border.
With the border adjustment. The business community is bitterly divided. Members of the Republican Party are divided.
And
the Senate doesn't like it as much as the House does. Yeah. And if you don't do the border adjustability, you don't have all this revenue to pay for the rate cuts. And the question is, can they find some way to either do rate cuts and expensing and not pay for it or pay for it with gimmicks, or does the whole thing fall apart?
And where would your money be on that question?
My guess is we won't get the border adjustability, that we will get some kind of business tax cut, but it won't be nearly as big as the people have been hoping for.
You think 25% rather than 20, or is that even too much?
I think 25% is possible, but you have to be willing to do away with a lot of exemptions and deductions and credits, and you also have to find some pay for. So are they going to pay for it by block granting Medicaid and food stamps? Are they going to pay for it by assuming we get 4% growth? Are they not going to worry about paying for it? I think those questions are really unresolved.
What happens to the markets if we only get 25% cut, no border adjustment, or just some sort of watered down tax reform or tax rate cut?
I don't think it'll have that big a negative impact on it. I think if there's just a simplified tax cut and less regulations, I think the market's fine with this. I wonder, David, you talk about Trump having to win more of the global base in this country. I'm wondering if he can accomplish that, even if he doesn't get anything done. But let's say the economy continues to do okay and jobs retail sales keep going, income keeps going. Maybe he's going to win more over it, even though he doesn't do much.
I totally agree with you. Look, the man is skillful and he's lucky, and he's inheriting an economy that has a substantial momentum. Right. I think the question, I think the markets are underappreciating the risks here. The risks are that he does something that the markets don't like, that he does something on trade, that he inadvertently gets us into some kind of minor shooting war. I mean, the thing that's most interesting to me about the last month is every one of these controversies has been generated internal to the Trump administration. He hasn't really had to deal with any external shock.
I mean, unforced errors.
Yeah. There's nothing like a Katrina, a terrorist attack, a big market crash where the administration will be tested on their competence. And something bad is going to happen somewhere in the world.
Granted, they're only a month into this.
Right, but it's all been dealing with controversies he's created. So they will be tested when something happens, and that may change people's minds about having a president who's as down on the bureaucracy and the establishment as he is.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.